It's way past time I dispense some indiscriminate justice!
G'day guys, Duckville here. We're going to be watching a replay from the Korean server here today. This is going to be a Terran versus Zerg, and this is going to be on Shakuras Plateau. This is going to be on the new version of Shakuras, of course, with no rocks, no backdoor, no shenanigans coming that way from the Terran, much to the happiness of the Zerg. Our Terran here today is going to be Lalapalooza. I have no idea if these are like Smurf accounts or anything like that, so we'll just go on the fact that these guys have some good points and that sort of thing on the Korean ladder, so they are some decent players, of course. And our Zerg opponent over on the other side will be showkeyOMG. He's been in a couple of other casts that some of the other guys have done before, so he's definitely someone worth watching, and hopefully we'll see him pull some interesting strategies out today. Speaking of interesting strategies, we've got because this isn't like an MLG version of the map, there's no blocking on the bottom of the ramp, so Terrans can do this wall in where you actually put a racks over here and actually fully block off the ramp. Now the bonus that gives to the Terran is of course that it blocks any drones or any sorts of ground-based scouting from coming in through the middle. Now you would think that, hey, you can still do that up here, but the reason that you might want to actually do it down below, as we do see Lalapalooza doing it, is that actually the right, I don't know if that's the right position or not, but anyway, is that when a drone comes up to this sort of position here on the top of the ramp where they can normally get to, they can still see any sorts of buildings that are around the sides like this. So it is actually really cool if you can block them off from seeing that sort of thing. Now he does look as if he's going to go for a 2 racks. He probably doesn't know that it is full-on cross spots. Of course, in Shakuras you cannot be vertical positions like as in down this way, but you can of course be the 2 horizontal positions, so over here, and the full diagonal position over here. But Showkey is going to be pulling a quick hatch there, just getting that over and done with, and then he'll have a spawning pool on the way as well. It doesn't look like he's grabbing his gas just yet. He may be doing some sort of ice fisher or Spanishiwa style, where you actually get the gas a little bit later once you've put your economy into full gear. So we'll see what happens. But before we get into anything too sort of hectic in the game, you guys have probably noticed I have like a really terrible sort of intro video there, which is something that I spent about 10 minutes doing in Sony Vegas. It's probably even less than that. Oh, a drone taking some fire here. The drone will not make it to the extractor. But yeah, about the intro. So got a terrible intro there. If anyone is actually able to give me a hand with actually producing something that's a little bit better, number one, I actually have terrible creativity, and number two, I'm just obviously not that fantastic with Sony Vegas anyway. So, or if someone has some way to put together a video, let me know. Send me an email or send me a DM on Twitter or something like that. Just let me know if you want to help out a little bit, and I will love you forever like a cheap hooker. So we've got some Marines coming across the map here with some SCVs. Of course, this is a standard sort of early pressure you do see from a Terran against a Zerg these days, which is a very common tactic because it is extremely powerful. Now we do have a couple of Lings that are already out, and I was about to call it a Sunken. I've still got that Brood War disease where you call things by their Brood War equivalent. But a Spine Crawler is actually up, that's the one I'm looking for, and some Lings are done, so I don't think this is actually going to get too far. A Bunker definitely won't be able to get down with the Spine Crawler there, and we do see that Lalapalooza actually spots the Spine Crawler, takes a few pokes from it, of course, and is forced to retreat there. So in effect, this early push, or the potential early push there, has been stopped. So his response is to chuck down another racks here at the front. He's going to have a full wall off here, a nice little wall off, a hard wall against any banelings, that sort of thing. It'll take a lot to bust through that, of course, and we'll see if he actually is just going to power up his economy, but it looks as if he's actually going to still have a shot at some of these units here. It looks as if he is retreating now. Can see that 2 Spine Crawlers are done. Sees that a few Lings are roaming around in the middle there still, of course, but as we can see there, just massive amounts of droning going on here from Showkey, so he's definitely going to power up the economies. Chuck down that extractor. I think that may have just been a quick response to actually seeing that early push, the 2 racks push there from Lalapalooza, so he may actually, oh no, he's grabbing the second gas, so it's probably still part of his build. I just thought it may have been a quick sort of speeding reaction to that early push, but it's definitely not that. So We've now got the command center over at the natural here for Lalapalooza. Of course, he's had adequate time to get that down very safely, of course, given that he has this full wall off and the many marines which are pressuring at the front of the Zerg's base, which gives him time to actually get that sort of command center up and running, and his economy will actually be steaming ahead if we have a quick look in the economy stakes, and they are indeed. He does have a decent lead on the minerals, and of course he's just a tiny bit ahead in the gas, but the gas is a bit it's a bit fragile when you're actually looking at that sort of graph. But of course the mule's providing the bonus there to the income. As we can see, he's around about about 300 ahead of the Zerg on the other side of the map, and as we can see here, some Zerglings are coming across just to check out what is going on, and down here we can see that he is actually controlling Zelnaga watchtowers, which is a really good thing to do, especially on this map. It's a big map and there's a lot of room to actually try and make sure you're covering. Of course, as we can see, you can see both of these external third bases here on the side, so he'll know if Lallapalooza is actually going to go for that third, which is highly unlikely, of course, but it's a chance. And of course, if you can keep an eye on what else is going on around the map, it is a really good idea to stop drops and that sort of thing. So we'll have a look at the tech, and we do have the +1 melee weapons is on the way for Showkey. He's going to be pumping out some probably a lot of ground units, being the looks as if it may be banelings, of course, because we do see a baneling nest here. We've got the lair just morphing in. It's about a quarter done, and he'll probably be grabbing the baneling speed pretty quickly because he can see the 3 racks, probably knows there's a lot of marines, and we do have a factory and a starport on the way now, so we'll see what the plan is from Lalapalooza. He's probably going to go a standard sort of thing with a bit of bio mixed in with some mech, perhaps a couple of tanks and a couple of medevacs, just to make sure that the marines stay alive long enough, given that they do have a drug addiction. And now that we can, if we have a quick look at the scouting here, Lalapalooza is still not actually exactly sure what is going on. He hasn't really scouted even the main. He actually has no clue what's going on in the main, of course. But of course, to a Terran, that's not too much of a problem because he can't. He's got the tanks. The tanks will obviously stop any sorts of ground-based pressure from roaches, banelings, or speedlings, and the marines will obviously help against any mutas which may be popping out as well. So we'll see if some sort of tech path will come out shortly from Showkey. It looks as if he is getting the baneling speed, so he may be using that to his advantage once he moves into position with his plethora of speedlings that he actually has out. It's not a totally massive swarming amount, but it's certainly enough to put down some banelings, and then he may put Lallapalooza in some trouble. And as we can see, taking a third pretty quickly here. This is actually, I'm really surprised. Like, obviously we do have the in-base third over here at the natural, but it actually really surprises me that Zergs don't actually take the third a little bit quicker on this map. I know there is, of course, the chance of Hellions and that sort of thing coming through, but it just sort of seems a little bit more logical if you can have a go at taking the third base instead of just sort of camping out on the 2. You can actually secure it pretty quickly, but we'll see what happens. Of course, as we go to the scouting for Showkey, he knows that the factory is there, the starport is there, so he knows that there is some sort of biocomposition ready to roll there with a few tanks mixed in for fun. Some Zerglings are camping out down at the bottom of the ramp, and then a couple more down here, just in case perhaps he can spot any sorts of drops that may occur. Speaking of drops, we do have an overlord going over to the top base at 12 o'clock. Of course, the rocks are now over on this side of the map, so instead of the rocks being off to the side of a main base, they're actually down here. So you need to bust through here, put down some defensive sort of posture and actually hold that sort of position. You can really get a good grip on that sort of base. But now we do have Lalapalooza actually moving out here with a decent force of tank, marine, and one single medevac providing the healing from the sky. Looks as if the tanks are going to be able to squash down a lot of these units which are morphing in here, and as we can see, we do have some mutas in the sky. Some banelings are prepared as well. Lings are now moving out here. The tanks have sieged up, so he's going to try and perhaps snipe out this third expansion, moving in with some marines. Doesn't know what is exactly coming for him, and it's a lot because the Zerglings have moved in, taken him out straight away, and as we can see, that medevac goes down straight away as well. The medevacs are going to have to be very careful of that sort of thing, and now we do see the tanks have taken shots at the Zerglings, but the Zerglings have actually been picked off quite decently there, but the tanks are now dead. The banelings got picked off, actually splashing themselves all over a few tanks there, trying to you know, change the paint color of the tanks, but it looks as if Lalapalooza are actually losing everything there for pretty much no gain. He did kill some Zerglings, but to be honest, for a Zerg, that's not really too much problem at all. Got heaps of those down in the store. So we do have a couple of spine crawlers that are in here. Good protection there from Showkey, making sure that his back is actually protected against any drops. In fact, we may have actually had a drop, so we'll put that one up on the in screen there. But we see that there was very little damage occurred from that drop, if there was one. There's no damage to any of these drones, as we can see. The spine crawler did take a few hits, but enough is enough. The Mutalisks are inside. They're trying to fly through. No damage was done to the SCVs there, but as we can see, the Mutas are now sweeping back across here. Going to try and snipe out this SCV, building a turret. If they can hit both and then take out the turret, that'll be good, but no. Cancels the turret. The Mutas are providing a lot of hurt here on those SCVs. A couple of turrets are going to try and be built in the main mineral line there, but the Marines have forced away those Mutalisks. So the Mutalisks have done a little bit of pressure there, keeping the Terran inside his base. Of course, a lot of these SCVs majorly oversaturated at this base. It's got 2 pages almost of SCVs there, as we can see, which is way too much. You only need about 2 lines, if that, of SCVs on a single base mining. But so the game has certainly gone in favour of Showkey for the moment. He's got this third, is still running. It's back up and running now, and he's got a couple of spine crawlers for defence here. We'll see if anything actually gets dropped on the top. We do commonly see that sort of drop up the top, and then they run down through the ramp. But we do have a move out here. The third base has been secured here by Lalapalooza. He's trying to take out anything he can at the Zelnaga Watchtower, and he may get some of these Mutalisks here if he's careful with their Marines, but the Marines are not quick enough, and they do lose a couple of their brothers over on the side, but it's not too much of a problem. If he can actually get this third base up and running, that'll be really good for Lalapalooza. Of course, it can really help him with churning that economy and actually getting a lot of his upgrades done, which is probably the next step that he's going to go for. And as we can see, we do have a lot of stuff going on here in the Zerg base. But meanwhile, the Mutalisks are attempting to come through here. There isn't too much defense apart from the one Thor. Mules being picked off. Beautiful micro there to take out the mules firstly, and then escaping with most of those Mutalisks intact. We did see one go down just then, but certainly doing a good job picking off some of those units. He is going to need to be very careful with how far he extends those Mutalisks. He doesn't want to get them too far into trouble with that Thor hanging out with his awesome anti-air guns that he does have. And as we can see, we mentioned the upgrades are coming along for Zerg. Flyer attacks level 2 is just about done. Zerg ground carapace level 2 is on the way as well. 38 Zerglings are in production. He's very sort of apt with getting these Zerglings out. There's a whole heap of them here, along with a whole ton of banelings. We got banelings all over the shop here, and a planetary fortress is going to give them a lot of trouble if they try and roll through here. So we'll see what the plan is for Lalapalooza. He's going to need to perhaps move out, put some pressure on the Zerg to make sure that he's not sitting idly by and taking bases. As we can see, Mutalisks moving across here, not going to be able to pick up those tanks because the Marines are covering them, not to mention the Thor at the back is giving them a lot of cover. So the Mutalisks are essentially going to be useless for the first part of any sorts of battle here. But the fungal growth comes off, beautiful fungal growth on top of those Marines, and these Marines are absolutely dead. There is no chance they're going to get away, splashing all over the place like a crazy pool party. Zerglings running through, banelings coming across as well, leftover banelings taking out some of the tanks there, and the medevacs have no hope but just to watch the rest of their brothers die. And as we can see here, a medevac drop looks to be coming along here. We have another drop going to this southern side of the map, so we're going to have a double-pronged drop here from Lalapalooza in response to that heavy damage that he did just take. And as we can see, some more Infestus. An Ultralisk is on the way. The extra armor is coming through for the Ultralisks as well. So there's definitely going to be a lot of devastating ability from the Zerg in a moment. But we'll see that this drop is probably going to fail. These Marines have been left behind. And there we go. They are being dropped. Marines being dropped on top of those banelings. Awesome strategy there to actually drop your Marines on top of the banelings if you can. Make the banelings waste themselves on one Marine. It's very, very terrible efficiency for the actual banelings there if they explode on just one Marine. So beautiful tactics there by Lalapalooza. But we'll see what the next stage is for Showkey. He does have this fourth base over here. As we just saw before, the fifth up the top is just about to get up and running. There are some drones transferring across. I would assume that a queen is going to build up there shortly as well. And now, as we can see, 2 command centers being built in the middle of the map. This is quite interesting. You don't actually see them often being built here, but we'll see what the plan is for Lalapalooza. It looks as if he is going to take the rocks. Perhaps he's going to float one of the command centers up here. Maybe the other one will go down here, and then he'll be able to secure his own 4th and 5th bases. But we'll see if that is the plan. Nothing really happening with these command centers just yet. I think he's just got to be very careful with how he actually maneuvers across the map. There we go. We do have one command center just about to float over here, and here it comes. It's slowly trundling its way across the map. Meanwhile, over in Showkey's base, we're still pumping along this economy here, doing a great job. Going to set up some spine crawlers to make sure this base is defended. Do keep in mind now that he's losing overlords. He's actually quite a bit supply blocked at the moment. He's about 20, almost 20 supply behind where he needs to be. But we do have some Zerglings just checking out what is going on. Some tanks splattering them all over the place, like driving into a bug on the freeway. And now, Planetary Fortress. Alright, we're going to have a Planetary Fortress right here in the middle. Let's have a look at what this does. It means that instead of the Zerg just sort of running through this position here and having a free run past the tanks that are over here, they will actually get splattered a bit by the Planetary Fortress. Probably would have been better to have a little further back. As I say that, he puts down another command center. This could be interesting if we have double Planetary Fortress defense here. But as we can see, he's very strong across this sort of middle section here, protecting this 3rd base. But down to the side, there's very little here covering the Terran expansion, obviously in the natural, and then of course the main. But as we can see here, a few Ultralisks are out. It's a lot of banelings. We got some infestors, Zerglings as well. A drop has been done here down at the 4th base. This one doesn't look as though it's done too much damage. He did pick off one of the infestors though, which is quite decent, but we'll see if he is actually going to move across. He does know that there is a command center there, doesn't know that it's a Planetary Fortress just yet. Sees the barracks going up in quite a random position. That's a little bit interesting, but a lot of mech is inside here along with the Marauders, so they're going to be able to do quite a bit of damage against the Ultralisk when they float on through. But as you can see, speaking of floating, these Mutalisks are going to have no chance against this turret. Once some SCVs get on there and repair that, they are going to be exploding like crazy. And as you can see, looks as if Showkey is going to attempt to bust through the rocks here and actually expose this expansion to this massive force which he has in wait. He may actually just suicide some of those banelings onto that. That may be the best course of action here. It sort of depends how desperate he is to get rid of this base, but we'll see. Right now he is moving inside. The banelings are splattering on some of these Marines that are around there. Banelings all over the place. The Planetary Fortress goes down. No repair was going on at all, and a lot of Marines are being lost here, of course. Some of the SCVs going down as well. There was splash damage from every single unit you can think of, and that was quite a nice exchange there for Showkey, taking out the 4th base up the top there and keeping that in check. You always want to do that if you can keep the Terran's economy in check as a Zerg and you expand out yourself. You are doing a great job towards securing your victories. And as we can see here, the Broodlords are now morphing in. We've got 3 Broodlords on the way at the moment. 6 more Corruptors are being morphed in as we speak. We'll see if they are actually able to bust through this very heavy contained sort of position, this sort of very stalwart position that's protected by a Planetary Fortress off to the side. We got tanks, we got Thors, we have pretty much everything on the menu for Terran there, so he's definitely going to be quite secure down here. This particular base came down from the middle there. The command center floated down, tried to have a holiday down here at the 4th base, but it's obviously not going to work out because there is a Ultralisk problem over here and an Infestus, some Banelings. These guys are going to hang out here and stop any sorts of landing of that command center. So we'll see if Lalapalooza can secure his 4th. He does need to be, as we said before, very careful here. A beautiful line of siege tanks. That's very beautiful to see him in quite a line like that. Thor is taking some shots at the mutas there. Some random units exploding all over the place. A drop comes into the 5th base up the top. Spine crawlers all over the place, poking away at these Marines. And this drop may actually be successful, because if we have a quick look here, he is actually targeting out that hatchery. Probably going to take it down. There aren't enough spine crawlers poking away at these Marauders here. As we can see, Marines still staying intact for the moment there. That Marine does get picked off eventually, and in fact the medevacs say goodbye. We are leaving you here. This one Marauder now scouting down to see what he can do at this base. In fact, he's just going to walk out. He's had a little bit of fun there, but now we do see over at the cross at the side, a massive attack has occurred here. We have units coming through all sides of the map. We got Broodlords down to the side. We have Ultralisk down, taking care of tanks, mashing through those tanks, but I think the Planetary Fortress will help out there. Ultralisk now coming in the top, infested Terrans waddling down like penguins on a march from the top of the base. and now we see that this base is very much in trouble. The only 2 Vikings out to stop the Broodlords, but they will be able to take some shots at the Planetary Fortress. There is certainly enough here for the Terran to secure this position, but taking a lot of damage there, whilst obviously exchanging the Zerg for his own units, of course. But a huge attack commencing there from our Showkey Zerg. He's trying to do what he can to slow down this economy. Of course, he has been successful. He's stopped this base once again, and as we can see, he's going to attempt to, he'll have to come over here and deflect this attempted landing of this command center. Let's have a look at the economy once again. We'll see where these guys are up to. We've currently got Showkey sitting on 60 harvesters, sitting around about 1300 mineral income, 900 gas or so. And Lalapalooza sitting around 1,000. I don't think there are any mules down just at the moment. No, there's no mules just for the moment, but expect a few of them to drop down here to grab a lot of those minerals as soon as possible. But he probably will shoot up in the economy stakes now that some of these SCVs have transferred over to the 4th and the 5th base. So we'll see if he will be able to secure his economy, because if he doesn't, he may be in quite a lot of trouble. There's a lot of Zerglings hanging around the map. These guys are roaming around looking for trouble. They will be able to find some down here at the 4th base. He's running inside. This Planetary Fortress is not going to last long. Lift cancels the Planetary, lifts off, takes out a lot of these mules here. As we were saying before, with in terms of the economy, we do have Lallapalooza quite far behind just for the moment here, considering he is playing Terran, but he's not getting any chances to actually take out any of the bases and secure them as best as he can. As we can see here, these Zerglings are running around causing all sorts of mischief here with some Infestors and banelings backing them up. There is it's quite a deadly force for any sort of bio-Terran force. And now, as we can see, we do have Showkey heading up the top. Will he go up and deny this base again? It's certainly open for inspection. There's only a few guys out here. There's some Marines and some Marauders. They are going to stim inside. A lot of banelings morphing in here. We do have a total of 70 banelings morphing in right now. This is going absolutely crazy. We're going to have a massive baneling party in a moment once this gets started. Now, as we can see here, they are rolling all over the place. Let's have a quick look at the upgrades. They do have +3 to their weapons, so they will be doing a massive 47 damage against light units. They do have +2 to armor, so they will take a tank shot or 2. I'm not actually sure of the numbers on that, but they will be able to roll through here. Certainly, given the numbers here, Infestors are rolling along with them, and now we do see their banelings running through here. This is like a massive school of fish just flowing through the sea, trying to bust through some sharks, and the sharks are just going to hold off with just a slight advantage there to the Terran. A couple of tanks left over, some Thors, the Planetary Fortress, of course, which never dies. It's like the Energizer Bunny. Once you put that in, that thing is never going to die. And the Infested Terrans doing their best, and not to mention some banelings just cruising over here. But the massive attack there that was something that was massive. That must have been something like almost close to 100 banelings. We'll have a look a little bit later, but it wasn't too successful, of course, and we do see that this base is almost mined out, though, so that could actually be quite beneficial for Showkey if he can hold off this particular base from getting set up. That would actually be really great for Showkey. What I do want to see him do, though, is take this base if he can. He's lost the 6th base, which he did have here, but he's really not actually gaining too much ground on the Terran, of course. Now, with our Terran, he is sort of turtling up. He's got a Planetary Fortress and tanks and that sort of thing all over the place. Muta's deciding to come in and have a look at the top base there, saying excuse me to that Viking, passing through. Planetary Fortress open here to be absolutely annihilated, of course. It cannot shoot up for some reason, even though in the little animation it does. It does look up, but hey, the Marines and a Thor have come along to deny that attack, and we will see the Mutalisks fly away. Now, having a look at the upgrades for Zerg, if we have a quick look at what the Mutalisks have got, they only have +2 to their attack. The Glaive Worm doing 11 damage there, sorry, and then of course bouncing around various other units. And the other upgrades, we've got no Flyer Carapace upgrades for the moment. Let's have a look at what the other units have got. They're finally up to 3-3, so we do have the +3 armor for ground units and the melee weapons as well. Want to see some Ultralisks perhaps morphing in. Some Nidus Worms would be great if we could have some Nidus Worms perhaps jumping in the back here, maybe surprising the Terran coming across the side. Maybe that will work somehow, but we'll see if that is the case. Mutalisks attempting to find out what they can over here. Coming across, sniping out 2 of the tanks, which is a brilliant move there. In fact, tanks on sail here, flying around. The Mutalisks are going to take care of this, and they will be able to clean up whatever they can. This base was attempting to be taken there, but no hope, given that there is a whole Terran fortress outside your base, and that's not going to happen. And the Mutalisk is still cleaning up a lot of these units here. The Marines finally coming along to stop them on their merry rampage, and finally we will see if our Zerg player is going to try and take this 6. As I said, I would really love him to try and take this 6 base. It can be quite secure if he gets opens this up, spreads some creep down. He will be quite secure in that position. It surprises me that he attempted to take down the base at the 5 o'clock, but now this planetary fortress is open for inspection as well. Mutalisk getting under a bit of trouble there from the Marines, but there are certainly enough Mutas to take care of that. The Viking goes down as well, medevac gone. SCVs madly attempting to build a turret or two over in the mineral line, but they're not going to survive quite long. Thor finally comes along. Thor actually exploding at Mutas all over the place there. Mutas attempting to take some shots here with some decent micro from those Mutas there, taking shots where they can, denying those turrets from being built, and finally the Thor gets into position to deny the Mutalisk from doing any further damage. Now, Vikings are out on the prowl here, trying to, I think Lalapalooza is just a bit wary of another Broodlord tech switch, and so he does have these few Vikings out. Of course, he does have Thors, but Thors get in a little bit of trouble when you're facing Broodlords because they can fire from afar, and then of course the Broodlings get in the way and all that sort of stuff. It's like going into a toy store and there's just kids everywhere, and you can't kick them out of the way, so you just got to try and step around them. That's what it's like for a Thor with Broodlings around. Now we do see that Mutalisks have bumped up their numbers here. The Zerglings have also come to quite a large number, and we do have a couple of Infestors down at the back. I'm wondering what the plan is here from Showkey, sorry. He's looks as if he's going to attempt to look in at this particular base here. Mutalisk flying off the side, trying to see if he can flank any of the tanks, but it looks as if 2 Thors, a couple of Vikings are in position there. The Zerglings busting through all of that so fast. Of course, they do have all of their upgrades, and we do see that they have taken out all the tanks here, the Thors as well, and the Mutalisks, it looks as if have been taken out as well, but the planetary fortress will probably survive. There are 2 SCVs just hanging out here, earning their keep, taking out whatever money they can while they're repairing that planetary fortress. But it looks as if this base was not really damaged too much at all. There is of course a Thor and a turret, which is very much a secure position against Mutalisks, so we'll see what Showkey is going to do next. Finally, he has actually poked away at those rocks. I don't know how you poke rocks away, but that would really hurt. Hatchery going down here at the 6 o'clock expansion, finally taking this one. As I said before, I really wanted him to take that a little bit quicker. This one is quite a risky base to take. You got 2 Terran planetary fortresses ready to roll if you try and counteract these positions, not to mention a Thor, some Vikings, these sorts of things hanging out looking for trouble. And of course, now that Zerg is starting to run low, he is going to start to run into a little bit of trouble, because this is where the Terran efficiency comes into effect, of course, in terms of your units being a lot more efficient with the damage that they do. Of course, the splash damage from the tanks will waste away the Zerglings, but as we can see here, Zerglings not afraid of anything. The fungal, where was the fungal? No fungal there from that infestor, but it was certainly something you could have put down. These medevacs, actually, have a look at that. All these medevacs are actually quite low there. A couple of them still a little bit higher on the health, but perhaps they should go and repair themselves. But a couple of fungals there could decimate that entire force, and he's certainly got enough energy here to put those down. I'd really love to see him do that, but Lalapalooza securing this 5th base, and of course this 6th as well. This is an orbital commando, so this is quite susceptible to a sort of Mutalisk Ling attack. If you mix in a bit of that, you will be able to take out that orbital command. Another base is actually moving out. This is actually the natural expansion. As we can see, the main expansion, I think that must have been the one that floated down to the bottom, and it looks as if Lalapalooza is just he's just unhappy with the fact that he is currently sitting on 58 harvesters. He's going to try and beef up his economy a little bit more. It looks as if we do have a sieging attack on this base here, the outer 3rd base at the top left. It looks as if this is definitely going to go down, but we do have a counter attack. The Infestors popping down some infested Terrans. These guys are going to pop up and cause some damage, but the problem is the Hydralisks, which are now starting to come along in greater number. Like the Sand People, they're not marching in single file, so there must be Stormtroopers, but the Hydralisks are going to do a heap of damage. They don't actually, interestingly, have any missile weapon upgrades for the Zerg, so he's actually not going to be doing too much with those Hydras, but of course they are in a decent sized number, so they will be able to do a lot of damage if they are allowed to proceed unsieged from the tanks. Now they are doing a little bit of micro, a little bit of groove dance here. They do have their groove spine, so they are able to shoot from quite far away. The orbital command is on fire. He's going to need to get the fire crew out to that one, or otherwise it is going to burn down. I'm not sure if Lallapalooza has noticed here, not actually caring that this thing is going to burn down quite quickly here, but it looks as if another counter-attack at the top has commenced here from Lallapalooza, taking out some of the drones there, but the Marines have finally gone down. Now let's have a quick look at where we're at with the economy for these guys. Showkey now sitting here with the 6th base, the outer 3rd here, and the top base is almost gone. But we'll see if he's able to take out some of this Terran economy. If he can, that'll be really good for him. The Planetary Fortress wailing away at these Hydras. Do remember that Planetary Fortress do splash damage, so they will be able to do extra damage to the Hydras or their little buddies on the side. But I think the problem is here is this counteracting force here from the Terran. He's bringing in Marines, Marauders, and even Vikings on the ground. And let's see if he actually picks up the Vikings in the medevacs. That'll be cool. But there is just way too much damage coming out of these Hydras. Pushing a little bit too far, extending himself down there was Lallapalooza. But hey, he's a bit busy down here. He's doing a bit of micro, bringing these Marines along to this party down here at the 6 o'clock position, taking out drones all over the place. The medevac does go down, so these guys are doomed. It's not Saving Private Ryan, you guys are dead. But the Hydras finally take that out, but a lot of damage was done here. As we were saying before, these our Zerg Showkey really does need to step up with his economy if he is going to stay in this game. As we mentioned, the planetary fortresses, the tanks, that sort of thing, are really going to provide Lallapalooza with a good base to take the map if this goes into the late game. Let's actually have a quick look at the position with the units here. We've got 11 tanks, 32 Marines, 1 Viking, 1 Thor, a couple of Marauders, and a couple of medevacs versus a decent size 53 Zerglings, 17 Hydras, and 1 Lonely Infestor. So it still is sort of an interesting position here for Zerg. If he can do some damage here to this economy, he will be in a good position, but it looks as if he's trying to do what he can here, dropping some Hydras in. Not often you see this sort of mini Hydra drop down at the base, but it looks as if he is going to do some decent damage there, taking out some of the SCVs. And meanwhile, up at the top, we do have a large drop of Ling Hydra coming in through the top there. It is going to take out a decent size part of the Terran economy here, or the production facilities. If he can actually target them down, he's not targeting anything yet. He's just sort of hanging out here, probably dealing with the threat that the Hydras were under here. As you can see, Hydra parts all strewn all over the floor, and Zerglings and Hydras is trying to do what they can here in the main base. It was a great idea to drop in. I just don't think he actually microed that correctly. Probably should have gone for the production facilities instead of these tanks, but he is going to take out a couple of the tanks. Maybe takes out 1, takes out 2, there you go, and that'll probably be all she wrote, because these Hydras have no hope against this many tanks and Marines. But doing a decent job there, taking out that attempted 6 base down the bottom. This one is obviously out of commission for the moment. He's going to need to get something up there pretty quickly if he's going to stay in the game. But as we mentioned before, if we look at the supply, we've currently got Lalapalooza sitting at 149 supply to the 120, sort of going up, of course, as Zerg always does. It's slowly going up, but sitting at 127. So he is a little bit below where he needs to be, but it looks as if some Zerglings are going to try and counterattack here, running by that planetary fortress. Both planetary fortresses nearly, not a great idea here. But the tanks, this is going to be the problem for Showkeys. If he can deal with these tanks, he has no Broodlords, he has no Mutalist, and the only real thing he has to take the tanks is sheer weighted numbers. Perhaps if we can get some neural parasites going off, that'd be fun, but I don't think that's going to happen because there are so many tanks, they will pick off the infestors straight away. Now this base is going up again, the outer third here for Showkey is going to try and get that one up. I just can't see him actually coming back from this. He's just really under a lot of pressure here. Once the Terran, excuse me, starts moving through the middle of the map, he will be able to secure these positions as he is now. He's bringing along SCVs to this party. They will be able to repair tanks, repair the medevacs, and even the Mighty Thor, which is up here at the top as well. So we'll see if Showkey is going to actually be able to bring something along. As I said, it looks like a very dire position for him. He does have a couple of mutas out, which is good to see. Some mutas, 30 Lings are in production at the moment. He's currently sitting on a mineral count quite low at the moment. As we have a look at the units killed as well, look at that difference in the units killed. We have 919 Zerg units dead to 521 for the Terran. It's quite a lot, of course, and as we can see here, this force is going to start moving through. It looks as if he may want to try and attack this 6 o'clock base. That would probably be the best position for Lalapalooza. If he takes these the rocks out, moves up across to the 6 and removes this base, that'll essentially be GG, because then Showkey will not be on any more bases. And now holding the middle here is a brilliant tactic. What I really want to see is taking out some of these creep chimmers, which would be really good. But this is the problem for Zerg, because he is going to funnel through this position here. The tanks that are sitting down here, and there is a grand total of many tanks. I can't be bothered counting that many, but there are some tanks there which are going to be able to just absolutely slaughter these lings when they come through, and we'll see if they do attempt to come through. But the tanks are now moving in position. Hydras, Infestors down the back. Look at those Zerglings just being fried up there. The Infestors get some great fungals down. They actually took out a lot of those units there with the fungal, but just the fact that all those Zerglings got absolutely mashed on the ramp there were just the main problem for Showkey there. He's a bit unhappy with the position he's in. Loses the 6 o'clock base, and as I said, that is pretty much a really devastating position for the Zerg. He's having a bit of a word there to... no, that's actually Lallapalooza, I mean. But he is having a word there to Showkey. Of course, Showkey in a very problematic position here. He's long distance mining from this outer third base. He's got no base up here, or he's got a tiny bit of minerals there, 30 minerals there. You can donate that. And he's out of money for the rest of the map here. We do see that effectively all the extractors are done as well, so there's definitely going to be no gas, and I would think that is probably going to be it for Showkey. If he's not going to be able to get in here and take out this economy here, then that is pretty much it. Now, as we'll see, this Terran force will move through the middle. These tanks do have +3 to their weapons, no bonus on the armor just yet, but it looks as if this may be a final confrontation here. The tanks are actually being flanked quite beautifully there by Showkey, moving in with some Queens and some Hydras, taking out all of those tanks. Marine Marauder still sitting up the back being healed there, but there is not enough. The Queen's getting some beautiful micro there, putting down some transfuses to keep those Queens alive, which was a brilliant little tactic here. Now, this is the problem, which I mentioned before for Lallapalooza, is that he didn't clean out these creep chimmers. As I said, probably should have cleaned them out so that the Queens are actually a lot slower, but these Queens can now move around the map a little bit more mobile-like, and he will be able to come across here. But this is a bad position, because these tanks are going to splatter these Hydras, and the Queens will be easy pickings for the rest of these units here. Thor is going to try and waltz along and take out what he can, but he's not going to be able to. The Marine Marauder will be able to take out this Queen, it looks like, because the Queen is not going to be able to fight back, but the Thor now gets in position there, loses one of the Queens, and that was quite an interesting little fight there from those guys. But as we said, terrible position for Showkey right now. He is trying to long distance mine as best as he can. He's going to put down a hatchery here. If this gets up, and he is able to hold it up for just a moment while he gets some more forces into the mix, we could actually see a swing of this match into the favor of Showkey. But we'll see what Lallapalooza is up to. He is moving these units around interesting way. Looks like he may head across to this expansion here. He does see that the hatchery is attempting to go up. There's very little to protect it, of course. The tanks are now sieging up. They will be able to hit the hatchery once these units move into range, and they won't. That's just outside that tank's range. So we'll see that the Thors and the Marine Marauder combo will be the ones to take out that hatch. It is cancelled there. We do see that... is there going to be another hatch somewhere else? Nope, he's just losing all of these drones, and I think that is going to be it. He's going to attempt a long distance mine, perhaps this lower base here at the 6 o'clock, and some one baneling is going to try and morph in, just in case, one baneling can make the difference here. This could be a miracle, but we'll see what happens. The Zergling's just running around getting some vision there. So what can Showkey do from here? I'm not actually sure. He's really stuck for position at the moment. Of course, the tanks will be able to roll over these Zerglings here, but it looks as if a decent flanking position there actually brings the Zerglings in to tank those, tank the damage from the tanks, but it looks as if there's just not enough here. Queens go down, Hydras go down, and I would say that is probably going to be it, because there are no more attacking. Oh, there's the one baneling. There is the, of course, that one baneling, which could be a total hero and just explode all over the map. And maybe he'll win it that way, but I don't think that's going to happen. There is one Zergling somewhere as well. Where the hell is that? Not actually sure. Hero Baneling, no! He actually goes down, but I think that's going to be it. This two tanks, a Thor, some Marauders, Marines, and a Medevac is going to win the game here for Lallapalooza, just holding out just in time to get his forces into gear and then march across the map. He's got more units now streaming across because he does, of course, have this economy over at the 4th or 5th base, whichever one you want to call it, which has been able to hold up for a long time. And Showkey GG's, finally GG's after having a lot of pressure put on him during the late game there, and finally succumbing to that power of the Terran. It was a very heavy mech style from Lalapalooza. So we'll see in another game if these types of units get used. Of course, we don't see that sort of heavy mech used too often, where it's just a massive turtle fest. But he did it quite well, putting down some planetary fortresses, holding up this sort of base for quite a long time as well, and then just slowly pushing across, denying this base for the Zerg, which is why I mentioned probably this one would have been a better base to try and take earlier on. So good game from these two guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. It was a longer one, of course. I do love the longer sorts of games. But we'll see you guys next time. Cheers.